Hello, we have breaking news off the top. A school shooting in Michigan leaves 3 students dead, several others injured. That's where we begin tonight. NewsNation's Kellie Beeson has the latest from our newsroom tonight. Kellie, I know police held a news conference about an hour ago. What do you have?
That's right, Joe. Tonight we learned those students include a 16-year-old boy, a 14-year-old girl, and a 17-year-old girl. 8 others are hurt, including a teacher. 2 of the injured are currently in surgery. Now, the suspect in this case, a 15-year-old student of Oxford High School, and that high school is roughly 30 miles north of Detroit. The community, relatively small, about 22,000 people, and the situation is continually evolving. The undersheriff saying there'll be another press conference tonight. He's urging media and the public to stick with the facts in this case, to avoid hearsay and social media.
There's all kinds of stuff out on social media. Please don't believe everything you hear and see on social media. I've seen one screenshot of something about allegedly the shooter warning people not to come to school today, but that was somebody that got it from somebody. So please be careful with that information. There's a lot of, because of social media, there's a lot of stuff out there. I can't confirm whether it's true or not. Ultimately, we will get to the bottom of this.
Now, this is some video of the scene where you can see medical care arriving in the form of a helicopter and ambulances. During a briefing about 20 minutes ago, we learned the suspect allegedly fired 15 to 20 times inside of the school. The undersheriff said more than 100 911 calls came in during that time. Deputies took the suspect into custody in about 5 minutes. He asked for a lawyer and was told by his parents not to speak with police. Now, still no details on how the suspect got the gun. In Michigan, you must be 18 years old to possess or own a handgun. And at this hour, Joe, no word on a motive in the attack.
Yeah, and I know we're expecting another update later tonight. We will have the latest right here on NewsNation. Kellie Beeson, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Joining me now for more on this, retired police commander from Anne Arundel County, Maryland, TJ Smith. TJ, we're going to talk to you more in a minute, but we wanted to bring you in on this. Unfortunately, there's a protocol for school shootings, unfortunately, because they happen so often. Right. Tell us what's happening right now on that scene. What are police doing?
Right. They're combing through all the evidence that they have, trying to find out and looking at all of that social media to see if there was any sort of evidence leading up to this shooting. Of course, also trying to see if there was anyone else that might have helped or assisted in any way to make sure there are not any other threats moving forward. Police departments across the country are so much better trained to handle these scenarios. Unfortunately, we saw in Parkland where a police officer didn't go in when the situation was unfolding there, where in Columbine, that really changed how police training took place, where police officers were trained to go directly towards the threat and stop that threat so you could, eliminate unfortunately, how many children or people were killed in these active shooter situations. It
sounds like they were able to get on the scene. They did have an officer on the scene, I think, who's on duty on campus there, but within 5 minutes, they apparently had this shooter in custody. The other thing that stood out to me today, TJ, is one of the members of our team here who's younger than I am, pointed out these Alice drills, and I'd never heard of these, but this is just what these kids today in school have to drill with, and these are new drills. You perhaps know more about this than I do about what to do in the event of an active shooter.
Right. It's a different world. You look at the different generations that are still alive. Some went through the nuclear drills with the air raid sirens. Then the fire drills were a big thing. And the Midwest, you have the tornado drills. Now you have active shooter drills where kids learn and know how to run and get underneath their desk or hide in the hallway or wherever it is you're supposed to hide. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of where we're living. I was in church with my son recently, and there's a sticker on the back of the pew that says, hide, run, fight. Mm-hmm. And he asked me what that meant, and I had to explain to him this was as a result of the shootings that occurred inside of churches. That's the world that we're living in, and now we're educating people and, unfortunately, children on how to respond to these threats when they occur.
Unfortunate is certainly true. TJ Smith, we're going to ask you to stick around for just a minute. We'll be back with you shortly, but we're going to pivot now to another policing issue. A trial that started today in Minnesota. That's the pulse of America tonight. Jury selection began in the trial of Kim Potter. She's the former officer from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, right outside Minneapolis. She faces manslaughter charges in the fatal shooting of Daunte Wright back in April. Potter, as you may recall, yelled "taser" as Wright tried to get away during a traffic stop, but she grabbed her gun by mistake. Police body cameras captured the whole thing. So as we've said before on this broadcast, video has changed everything. Potter clearly yelled taser, clearly fired her gun instead, and then clearly admitted she had made a horrible mistake. The question for the jurors who were selected today, does that amount to manslaughter? Prosecutors will argue Potter was a veteran officer who should have known better and was reckless with her firearm. This incident happened, you'll recall, too, right as Derek Chauvin stood trial, just a few miles away, in fact, in the death of George Floyd. And as police departments across the country continue to lose officers to resignations and retirement, the larger question becomes, why would anyone want to be a cop these days, especially if making a mistake during a split-second decision could send you to jail? And there's another question. Would Dante Wright, who was a young father, still be alive today if he hadn't tried to get away? Is that a factor in this case? He was stopped for expired tags, and that's when officers learned he had an outstanding arrest warrant. When they tried to cuff him, he pulled back, then got back into the driver's seat, and the rest, unfortunately, as we know and see on video, is history. Should an officer go to jail for a fatal mistake? That's the main question tonight, and we'll ask it of our two guests, Randy Zelin, who's argued both sides of these cases, and TJ Smith, who joins us again. Randy, let's start with you. You've been on both sides of cases like this. What does this case come down to? Both sides admit it was a mistake. What does this hinge on?
It comes down to the jurors understanding the different states of mind, the different, what were you thinking? Now, if I intend to punch you in the face and I punch you in the face, that's my conscious objective. That's an intentional crime. If, let's say, I decide to mess with you, I really don't want to punch you in the face. I want to see how close I can come to your face without hitting you, and I punch you in the face. It wasn't my intent to hurt you, but I surely knew that it could have happened. I disregarded it. That's being reckless. That's one form of manslaughter. Then finally, if I don't realize that you're behind me and I swing around quickly, I'm messing around and I punch you in the face, I certainly didn't mean to do it. I didn't even know that you were there, but I should have checked. I should have known that you were there. I was negligent. Now, when you kill someone and you're negligent, that is also a form of manslaughter where your disregard is just gross. There's no other way of putting it. That's why they call it gross negligence or culpable negligence.
Right.
So here, the officer is not charged with intending to kill this man. What she's charged with is either you should have known that you grabbed the wrong gun, you didn't, that makes you reckless, or you didn't check enough, you didn't do enough to make sure you were negligent. That's the other form of manslaughter.
All right, TJ, let's pick it up there. She was a 26-year veteran. What do you see on this video? Because most people would say, as a police officer, you just simply can't make this mistake.
Oh, I agree with that. You can't make that mistake. You can't just simply make a mistake and kill someone and then apologize and say sorry. It just doesn't work that way in my book, in my opinion. And the training that police officers go through for their weapons, for their guns, for their tasers, for their pepper spray, for their batons is endless. It's yearly. And I remember actually going through taser training myself, and your taser is on your weak hand side, so your opposite hand of your gun, and you go across your body to draw your taser, and that's done purposely so these types of mistakes don't occur. And then there's a weight difference in the two weapons. If the stress is that much that you pull out the wrong weapon, then you probably should not be in the profession, and you're a risk to a lot of people. It's unacceptable. Now, the charge, in my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer, is the appropriate charge, and some people won't agree and will believe that it should be a murder charge. But as the lawyer just explained, the reason behind that, it won't be make people happy, but I think that's appropriate. But this is not something that you can just say, I'm sorry, we're going to fire you. It's probably appropriate that criminal charges are filed.
Well, let's ask you about it, Randy, more, because as you pointed out, both sides have said this was an accident. They do. But can you accidentally kill someone and be charged? Or is it different because this is a police officer involved? And we should point out there have been two cases in Minnesota, one in particular where an officer was charged when he accidentally shot a woman who had called for help in a garage. You remember that one?
Sure, we've seen one officer go to jail for 4 years, one officer go to jail for 2 years. But as my colleague very aptly points out, start and stop. And here's what the prosecution is simply going to do. They're going to demonstrate the clear and glaring differences between a handgun and a taser. They look differently. The taser is yellow. It's yellow for a reason, so you know that it's a taser. When you take the safety off, it lights up. A handgun does not light up. As my colleague indicates, the taser goes on your opposite side, on your weak hand, so your brain knows the difference. My gun is on my strong side, my dominant side. My taser is on my weak side, so I have to reach across. The grips are different. We go out of our way to make the two weapons as distinguishable as we can so this mistake doesn't happen. And if it does happen, then unfortunately for the officer, it is more than a mistake, and it is a crime.
If the jury finds her reckless, acting recklessly, that's enough for a conviction in this case, even though it was a mistake.
Without question, not only is it if she was reckless, she's going to be convicted. Again, if she was culpably negligent, if she was grossly negligent, which is just below recklessness, she's going to be convicted, and it may very well be that she does get convicted.
Right.
It's unfortunate to say that, but we have a young man who's dead. We can't bring him back.
And you probably have to watch, I'm sorry, Joe,
Go
but
ahead,
you probably have to also watch, does this open up another can of worms? Will you find out that the training that was provided was inadequate? Were they not doing enough training with the taser, with the gun, where you're going on the range to do your qualifications and you're being tested on pulling out that taser and pulling out that gun at the same time in your annual or semi-annual training? That has to be done in order to create that muscle memory that Mr. Randy was just talking about.
Right, Randy, let me get you on one other thing here. The other issue is Daunte Wright's decision ultimately to pull back from the officer, try to get into the car, and get away. What role, if any, does that play in this case?
It really doesn't play any. Even if we were talking from a purely legal standpoint, let's say we're talking about justification. Let's pretend that the officer's not a police officer, and we've been living recently with some of the most noteworthy justification defenses that we've seen in quite some time. Here, the fact that he goes into the front seat is not justification to shoot him. Even if he was trying to get away, that is not justification to shoot him. Certainly from a police officer's perspective, if you want to disable him so he can't get away by getting into the front seat of the car, that's where you use the taser.
Right.
The taser is used to disable someone, not to kill them. This was a mistake where there has to be accountability.
TJ, one more thing for you before we go. One of the byproducts of this, like it or not, is why people might hesitate to become cops in the first place. I was thinking about this today, and not many of us have jobs where if we make a mistake, we're going to jail. I mean, we might get fired, probably will get fired, but we're not going to jail. That's the difference here. How hard is this when it comes to people considering being police officers?
Well, I think that anyone who has the privilege to carry a weapon has to understand the gravity of that privilege, and you take your training seriously, and you go to the range for the allotted time or the mandatory time, but you do the extra time. You practice on your off time. If you carry the extra weapon, the taser or what have you, make sure you're proficient. If you don't understand, ask the questions. Make sure you know what you're doing so you don't find yourself in these situations. This, again, is a mistake that rarely, if ever, happens across the country in policing, with the thousands and thousands of tasers that are out there on officers and have been on officers for many, many, many years. So in all likelihood, yes, this is a mistake, and it doesn't happen often, but I don't think this should discourage anyone who wants to be a police officer. If you train, that's what you have to do.
Interesting. Well, the other interesting point here is that the officer, it was all caught on tape, and she said at the end there, I'm going to jail, which it was almost prescient, I guess, considering what's happening. We will see. But these are serious charges that carry a maximum sentence of 10 to 15 years. They're hoping to wrap this trial up by Christmas. T.J. Smith, retired police commander from Anne Arundel County, Maryland, and criminal defense attorney Randy Zelin. Two great voices to start us off tonight. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Congressman Ronnie Jackson, who used to be President Trump's physician, has a unique theory on the Omicron variant. He says it's a political ploy to help Democrats win the midterms. How does that work? We'll discuss. But next, the Supreme Court will hear a major abortion case, why this one is so important and so different. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media at the Donlon Report on Twitter. Much more ahead. The Supreme Court is taking on a major case out of Mississippi, which aims to restrict abortion after 15 weeks. This comes as anti-abortion activists and some conservatives are calling on the court to overturn the legal right to abortion as outlined in the 1973 landmark case, Roe v. Wade. Joining us now, NewsNation's Kellie Meyer. Kellie, let's explain and start first what makes this particular case so important and so different.
Well, this case could really transform the way we look at abortion rights in America, whatever happens here, Joe. And the Mississippi case is over a state law that prohibits abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Now, Mississippi's only abortion clinic sued over that law, saying it was unconstitutional. According to Roe, states cannot ban abortions before 24 weeks. But what the state of Mississippi wants here is for states to set their own policies. Former Vice President Mike Pence spoke out about this earlier today, reiterating his long-standing position and calling on the Supreme Court to end abortions in the U.S. Take a listen.
We hope and pray that our renewed conservative majority on the court will restore the sanctity of life to the center of American law. This is about saving the lives of millions of children yet unborn.
And for abortion rights advocates, they say this case is bigger than the decision to choose. It's about women's rights as a whole. Joe?
Kellie, what's the latest on the Texas case? Because where Mississippi's at 15 weeks, Texas was at 6 weeks, and the Supreme Court let that stand, didn't rule on it. They let it stand, though, right, on a procedural issue. Where does that stand?
Yeah, justices heard this case 4 weeks ago, but still no ruling on that Texas new abortion law that bans abortions after about 6 weeks and also allows private citizens to enforce this ban through lawsuits. Texas is watching this case here at the Supreme Court closely because if the justices do side with the state of Mississippi, Texas and 11 other states already have a law on the books that would automatically outlaw abortions in the state if the Supreme Court rules. Now, that ruling isn't expected until late spring or early summer of next year. Joe?
All right, Kellie Meyer, great update for us. Thanks very much. We appreciate it live in D.C. for us. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Nicole DeBorde joins us now for more on this. Let's start, I guess, with Nicole. What makes this case, as Kellie pointed out so well, isn't necessarily about overturning Roe v. Wade, although in a way it is, because if the court sides with Mississippi and allows it to install this 15-week ban, then it essentially overturns Roe v. Wade, correct?
It really does. And you have, as you've already pointed out, a number of states already lined up with laws which would then ban abortions in those states. The reality is that this is a case about the battle between a state's right to protect a fetus and a woman's right to reproductive autonomy. So that's what's at issue in this case, dealing directly with Mississippi's law that will impact the rest of the states.
All right, let's talk about where this potentially goes and the possible backlash, Nicole, or I guess the fallout, if you will. I was reminded today that the 1973 case was decided on a 7-2 vote. And 7 of those 9 justices at the time in 73 were Republican appointed justices. What does the makeup of this court now at 6-3 say about where you think this might be headed?
You know, it's a great question. And I think that before some of the more recent decisions, I think the majority of the people who were watching the court thought that this is an extraordinarily conservative court where we will likely have some setup of votes that will overturn Roe versus Wade. But I think after a number of decisions which have already come out, it appears to be far less definitive. And we're all waiting to see exactly how each of these new justices will rule and what their opinions will say about their thoughts on the constitutionality.
So what do we learn, if anything, from the Texas case we just mentioned with Kellie? The fact that the Supreme Court let that stand, albeit on a procedural matter, they didn't rule on it. They let it stand nonetheless. Does that give us any indication of how this ruling might go?
It really doesn't. The fact that they didn't do anything in that particular instance just indicates that the court did not believe that the issue was ripe for consideration. And the Texas law is a little bit different than the one before the court with Mississippi, in that the Texas law is one that allows the citizens to become the police, if you will, and enforce or not enforce by lawsuits the abortion ban that Texas seeks.
So the key here, Nicole, again, so that we try to make this as clear as possible, the point here is after which point the procedure can be banned. So if they do rule in favor of Mississippi here, it doesn't necessarily make it illegal, but it definitely makes it more difficult. And as you pointed out, it allows more states to ban it. So what happens if that is the case? Will some states who have said they will ban it completely, but other states still allow it?
Absolutely. I think that if the Supreme Court comes down on the side of Mississippi, you will see this handful of states, which has already initiated legislation which would allow them to ban abortions after a certain term, a certain period of time during the pregnancy. You will see those laws come into effect and effectively ban abortions in those states.
So, and then you would have to drive to other states, as we're already seeing now in for example, Oklahoma. People from Texas are driving to Oklahoma to get this procedure done right now. This is what you think might be some of the fallout?
I think that's exactly what some of the fallout will be. And I think that you'll see an impact on the ability for women to receive health care related to normal pregnancy issues that really just won't be offered by the types of clinics that also at this time provide abortions in states where that is legal, even under all periods or during all periods of a pregnancy. How
would you address that, Nicole? Because there are people who say these clinics, many of them in rural areas, are still free to go about doing what they do as far as just basic health care for women who don't have it without doing the abortion services. What would you say to that?
You know, it's critical that women be able to access health care. And anytime you have any law which criminalizes behavior such that it makes an impact on people's ability to access normal things like health care, you have a problem with an already overburdened criminal justice system. So this could create quite a problem for both the doctors and for patients who are seeking care.
All right, arguments tomorrow before the high court. We will see again a little bit later in 22 when the decisions ultimately come down. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Nicole DeBorde, thanks for your expertise tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Twitter has a new CEO, and he has a unique take on freedom of speech. Does Twitter have an obligation to defend the First Amendment? That's the issue. We'll get into that. And a missing 15-year-old found safe, but not before a harrowing ordeal over the weekend, kidnapped by someone she met online playing video games. How do parents spot these problems before they lead to this?
I think our vaccines, you may get sick even if you're vaccinated, but again, we say that after the booster, especially, you're not going to die. You're probably not going to be on a respirator. We simply don't know at this time. But as I said on Friday, this is not time to panic.
The voice of calm and reason. That was Dr. Bob Lahita on our broadcast last night, saying there's no need to panic over the Omicron variant. Today, the CDC strengthened its stance on boosters for all U.S. adults. Meantime, the president set to announce his winter plan for COVID-19 on Thursday. He says it will not involve shutdowns or lockdowns. But the head of drug maker Moderna is now saying his company's vaccine is not likely to be as effective against the Omicron variant. And preliminary tests show the drug treatment from Regeneron loses its effectiveness against Omicron. However, we still don't know how severe this variant will be. Meantime, one of former President Trump's doctors is now floating a theory behind this latest variant. In a tweet, Congressman Ronnie Jackson said, "Here comes the midterm election variant. They need a reason to push unsolicited nationwide mail-in ballots. Democrats will do anything to cheat during an election, but we're not going to let them." Joining me now, the editor-in-chief of the Washington Examiner. Good to have Hugo Gurdon back with us. Hugo, am I missing something here? How do you get from a new variant to mail-in ballots? What's happening here?
You get to it when somebody says something extreme and frankly extremely silly. Look, there's always going to be hype about a new variant. You know, we don't know exactly how dangerous it is. But actually, in some ways, the Omicron variant is good news. I mean, people look back to the 1918 flu epidemic and wonder how it went away and antibiotics and medicines weren't available. It's because when these viruses create new variants, what they're trying to do is become more transmissible but less deadly. It's the virus actually benefits from not being as deadly. And news from South Africa seems to suggest that the Omicron virus is producing mild symptoms. Now, I don't want to be sort of Panglossian about this and suggest that, you know, this is all going to be absolutely fine. Yes, as the virus varies, medicines, whether they're the vaccines that most of us have taken or the other therapies that there are probably not going to be as effective. And those will have to, you know, be developed. And the vaccine makers have said it'll, you know, within 100 days, they can perhaps update the vaccines. But at the same time, there is, as your guest last night said, no need for panic, and there's absolutely no need for lockdowns. We've tried lockdowns. They haven't worked. We just have to get on and deal with it. One thing that I would stress is Dr. Fauci, just recently over the weekend, and more recently, President Biden, have both started talking about the fact that we are going to have to live with the coronavirus. It's about time people stopped pretending that it was going to be eradicated. It's going to be around forever, and it's probably going to be combined with our annual flu shots.
Let me ask you about Dr. Fauci, Hugo, because I was wondering about this the other day. Love him or not, respect him or not for all that he's done, do you think it would benefit all of us to have a new voice and a new message at the top?
Yes, it absolutely would. And the Washington Examiner has called for him to be fired. You know, he has done a great deal of harm in obscuring. He talks about himself being the representative of science, but in fact, he has obscured the science, including the science of the origins of the virus. You know, the NIH, of which he is a very senior official, did finance gain of function at the Wuhan lab. Even the Chinese have dropped the idea that the virus started in the wet market. But Dr. Fauci continues to push that idea. It's absolutely time for him to be replaced.
My point on it, Hugo, is that I just don't know who's listening anymore. You know, the messages have been so confusing. And
that's
now
one of the reasons, yeah. That's one of the reasons to get rid of him. No one's listening to him anymore. He goes on TV with, you know, friendly stations, you know, that kind of basically support him. He's not reaching out to try and persuade people who are not already persuaded. He's no longer effective, if he ever was effective.
But isn't this part of the problem, Hugo, we're talking about? I mean, we can't even digest the news anymore. Everyone has an angle, or everyone needs whatever development is to fit a narrative.
Yeah, you're right about that. People will adjust the facts that they adduce, the ones that they believe, according to the narrative that they prefer. This is a serious problem with information these days. I mean, even the supposed fact checkers, and you and I have discussed this before. The fact checkers have their own narrative, and they dismiss things which are accurate because it doesn't fit the narrative they like.
Let's get you on Twitter, Hugo, before we let you go. There's a new boss who said the platform is not to be bound by the First Amendment, essentially. They're beholden to shareholders, not the Constitution, right?
Well, he's actually, in a technical sense, entirely true. Look, the Constitution, the First Amendment, applies to the government. It does not apply to private enterprises. Twitter is under no obligation to, you know, not to suppress voices. That doesn't mean to say that its suppression of voices is not a serious problem. It has already been suppressing voices, you know, shutting down links to, for example, the Hunter Biden story in the New York Post. It's big business which has sided with the Democrats. That's a serious problem, and it's something the country needs to address. But it isn't something which the Constitution addresses in the First Amendment.
All right. Hugo Gurdon, it's good to see you again, editor-in-chief of the Washington Examiner. Thanks for the time.
Thanks.
Shifting gears now to a story out of Florida where a teenage girl has just been reunited with her family after being abducted by an online predator. North Miami Beach police say 15-year-old Jaime Enriquez met her abductor through a video game chat before he took her from her home. Joining me now for more on this, Dr. Kathy Cook, president of Celebrate Kids and author of Screens and Teens, Connecting with Our Kids in a Wireless World. Doctor, we've been wanting to get you on for a little while now. We appreciate your time. Thank you. This reminded me of a story with one of my kids, and this was 15 years ago. I walked through the room. He's on a video game talking with someone on his headset. I said, "Who are you talking to?" He said, "Some guy in Philadelphia." And I went, "What? Wait a minute. Who?" And this was 15 years ago. People watching now might not realize how easy it is for kids today to communicate with complete strangers online.
It's very true, and it's a very important reason for us to guard our children and not let them have devices, perhaps in their bedrooms where they're alone and we're not supervising them.
Do kids not realize the danger of this, doctor? Because a lot of them do it. It's almost like they feel like there's nothing wrong with talking with a complete stranger.
I think a lot of them think that it wouldn't happen to them. They think they're above it all. You know, they're the center of their own universe. They think that they're their own authority. No, nothing bad will happen to me. I'll be protected. There's naive, thinking in that, right? It's a sad thing.
Yeah, we had actually a story right here on NewsNation Prime with Marnie Hughes. There was a missing segment that involved a 15-year-old who now has been reunited as well. She was taken by a man after connecting on an app that is actually built to connect strangers. That's their slogan, talk to strangers. And someone else who was on this app talking about strangers had been talking with this girl and then contacted the authorities, and that's how they were reunited.
I think part of it is that they're trying to invent themselves. They're trying to experiment with who they are. When we raise children to know who they are, to know their strengths, to know their challenges, to not deny their identity, they're not going to need to play the game. They're not going to try to pretend. So we need to make sure, as parents and grandparents and siblings and educators, pastors and priests, we need to be in front of our kids and say, this is who you are. Own this and love this about yourself.
Yeah, the other thing is that kids know a lot more about all of this stuff, the technology, how it works, and not only that, but how to get around the hurdles that parents try to set up for their kids that parents don't even know about.
That's very true, which is why a lot of parents today are using devices that do not have any social media or internet or gaming. Nothing can be added. Those devices now do exist. You can track your children through a watch or a phone, and I think people need to look into that. And again, we need to make sure that we know what we're doing as much of it and let our kids teach us, sit side by side and say, Jeremiah, teach me what you understand about this. Let them be the experts and see what they tell you.
All right. Dr. Kathy Cook, president of Celebrate Kids and author of Screens and Teens, Connecting with Our Kids in a Wireless World. Thanks for the time again. It's great to see you.
I appreciate it.
Here's a headline for you. We actually spent less on Cyber Monday this year than we did last year. In fact, spending was down all Thanksgiving weekend across the board. Not a lot, but it was down. Is it the result of rising gas prices or something else? Plus, Jim Harbaugh, fresh off his big win over Ohio State, now spreading the wealth, literally. This is a great story, and we'll have that for you coming up. Welcome back. Some breaking news now coming to us from the New York Times. A federal judge has issued a preliminary injunction halting the president's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers nationwide. That was set to begin next week. But again, that is now on hold. And it's not just healthcare workers. A federal judge blocked the government from enforcing the vaccine mandate for federal workers in Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee. So a late word here that we wanted to pass along before we move along now to the prosecution calling witnesses today in the case against actor Jussie Smollett. You'll recall Smollett, once an actor on the network show Empire, told police two red hat wearing Donald Trump supporters attacked him in downtown Chicago and put a noose around his neck in a racist and homophobic attack while he was out getting a sandwich at 2 a.m. Prosecutors, however, say it was just another performance by the 39-year-old actor and that the whole thing was staged by him. Mike Lowe of WGN Chicago joins us now. Mike, the prosecution started today. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's start with what we know about the defense strategy here.
Well, Joe, the defense is going to try and argue that Smollett is a real victim of a real crime. And they're already today in cross-examination of one of the prosecution's key witnesses tried to undermine the list of things that you just mentioned, the GPS information, the documentation, the text messages, the surveillance video, even the check that Jussie Smollett wrote to the two brothers who are alleged to have staged this attack that prosecutors are going to say was paid for helping to carry out this hoax. The defense is going to say that was money paid for personal training expenses. So the defense, looking at key witnesses now, those two brothers, Olab and Abel Osendaro, who are alleged to have conspired with Smollett to stage the attack. The defense attorneys plan to attack their motives and their character, saying they resented Smollett, that they didn't like him, that they were homophobic, and they'll point out that the brothers had weapons and drugs in their home and say that the actor, again, wrote them that check for personal training, not as a payment to stage the crime. Now, earlier today, a local activist spoke to reporters in support of Smollett, saying the Chicago police have a history of corruption. And then Smollett's brother also offered his support prior to the beginning of today's proceedings.
It has been incredibly painful as his family to watch someone you love be accused of something they did not do. All right? We're confident in his legal team, and we look forward to people hearing the actual facts in this case.
And the proceeding's still going on at this hour as we approach 6 o'clock here in Chicago. Only one witness has taken the stand today. Earlier in the day, it was the lead investigator for the Chicago police on the stand as prosecutors made a methodical case, walking through surveillance video frame by frame and looking at the path that was taken via GPS, pings on cell phones and so forth, really trying to make the case that nearly 24 Chicago police officers spent thousands of hours doing this, a clear attempt to undermine the defense argument that this was a rush to judgment. Joe?
We will continue to watch this case. Mike Lowe, live for us in Chicago. Thank you very much. Don't miss our interview with JoJo Smollett, Jussie's brother. That's on Morning in America tomorrow, right here on NewsNation. Morning in America airs from 6 to 9 Central. Right here, don't miss that. The Cyber Monday numbers are in, and they are down from last year. According to Adobe Analytics, consumers logged on yesterday and spent $10.7 billion. That's down 1.4% from last year when the pandemic forced a lot of people to shop almost exclusively online. That makes it the first time Adobe has tracked a slowdown in spending on major shopping days. For more on this, let's bring in our friend now, financial advisor for UBS, Tracy Burns. Tracy, I don't know what to make of this, right? I mean, we have inflation. Everybody's talking about prices going up. Yet we're spending, and we're spending a lot. How do you account for it? What's going on?
Yeah, and I also think we spent early. You know, we've been screaming about these supply chain issues, and people were worried that they couldn't get the whatever the tickle me Elmo is for this holiday season. And so maybe they shopped a little earlier, too. I also think we've gotten very smart, too. And we know that these sales, even though my inbox is flooded, I'm sure yours is, too, with last day for Cyber Monday sales, we know that this stuff is extended. And so I think consumers got a little smart this year. We don't have to rush and be suckered into prices that we don't want to pay.
But we are paying them, Tracy, as you know, for gas and groceries and cars and everything else, and yet we hear inflation is so bad. Is it maybe not as bad as we think, or how do you account for this?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, we're getting smart. I think gas, no matter where you go and what you do, will always be a very large part of the equation. Anyone that has to commute to work, my heart is bleeding for them right now. I am very fortunate I don't have to. I know what commuting costs could do to a budget. And so to have that, plus the holidays, plus maybe you're not happy with your job, it doesn't make for a happy recipe this time of year. I think, though, it's very possible, not that we want another COVID insurgence of any kind, but the more and more we start to hear these headlines, the more and more we might hear of travel restrictions and things like that, that actually might bring the price of fuel down.
Yeah, all right. Well, we heard from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell today and the Treasury Secretary as well on the markets, on Omicron and more. Here's a clip.
Greater concerns about the virus could reduce people's willingness to work in person, which would slow progress in the labor market and intensify supply chain disruptions.
The progress of our economy, of our economic recovery, can't be separated from our progress against the pandemic.
The other thing that caught our eye, Tracy, was the fact that people are quitting by the tens of thousands to become their own bosses, whether that's consultants or retailers or small business. How do you think all of this impacts the economy ultimately and the workforce?
Look, I think we have to remember this country was founded by entrepreneurs. We are an entrepreneurial nation. You know, I get that people are looking for workers and that the labor force is struggling on that end. But the notion that 440,000 small businesses were started over the last 16 months is pretty darn incredible. And you know what? Recession does this. People are home. Things are not great. They start to think about what they really want out of life. Let's be clear, right? They were also given a little extra money. Anyone that got a stimulus check had some money to invest in a small business. And the barriers to entry, Joe, are so low these days. I mean, so between social media and things like that, it's not like you have big upfront marketing costs either. So I think it's actually a great time to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of need and there's a lot of people filling some voids.
And a lot of people willing to take that chance. I mean, 4 million people a month quitting their jobs over the last couple of months. It's great, great insight from Tracy Burns, as always, financial advisor, UBS. Thanks for the time, Tracy. Big development here. Major anchor in prime time has been put on indefinite suspension from CNN. Leland Vittert joins us now with more on that.
Yeah, Chris Cuomo didn't quit, but he might not have a job after the next couple of days. This is all going back to whether Chris Cuomo helped his brother Andrew try to beat the sexual harassment claims that ended Andrew Cuomo's reign as governor in New York. And what we're learning is it may not have been the crime, so to speak, of Chris Cuomo advising his brother, but the cover-up. And that not only did he lie to his viewers, but based on the latest CNN statement, it appears as though Chris Cuomo lied to CNN about exactly what he did, including perhaps sending along some opposition research, some things to discredit the accusers, which did not sit well.
This was just released, right? Some of the transcripts.
Some of the transcripts just came from the New York Attorney General's office. And one of the questions we're going to ask a little bit later is, yes, Chris Cuomo was a sanctimonious jerk, but he was also helping his brother. And if your brother was in trouble, what would you do?
Right. Top of the hour. It's On Balance. Leland, we'll see you then. Meantime, Danny Fenster, freed journalist who spent months in prison in Myanmar, all smiles back home in Detroit. How's that for an American Snapshot? That's next. And to all our viewers out there, we want to thank you for making us the fastest growing cable news network in the country. Back after this. Talk about spreading holiday cheer. Listen to this. Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh says any bonus money he earns will be given to athletic department employees who had their pay reduced due to the pandemic. Harbaugh's bonuses could be as much as $3.5 million. He just needs to win the Big Ten championship and make it to the college football playoff semifinal. In tonight's American Snapshot, what a story. We've been following this since the beginning, and it seems to have found a very happy ending. That was Danny Fenster, the American journalist recently freed from a prison in Myanmar, lighting the first candle on the city of Detroit's menorah this past Sunday. Fenster returned home earlier this month. He was sentenced to 11 years in jail. His return home was negotiated with the help of former Ambassador Bill Richardson. Certainly glad to see he is home safely, and a huge thank you from Detroit, welcoming him back with open arms. That is our American Snapshot tonight. That is our time as well. Thanks for joining us on the Donlon Report. On Balance with Leland Vittert coming up next. Have a great evening. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.